This is Max Burnside with Course Birdie. Today I'm going to be teaching you how to make icons using Adobe Illustrator. For this lesson, we're going to be using the latest version of Adobe Illustrator as of this recording, which is Adobe Illustrator Creative Cloud, or CC, 2014 release. There are going to be some things that I'm going to show you while making these icons today that are done best and most easily inside of the newest version of Illustrator, although the techniques I'm going to be showing you can also be replicated in older versions of Illustrator. There are just a few things that Creative Cloud has released feature-wise that previous versions, even CS6, didn't have. And so I'll tell you about those features once we're creating them. But the first thing that we're going to talk about is which version. So Creative Cloud 2014, and if you don't have this already, you can download a free trial from Adobe for its 30-day trial. And if you've already downloaded one, you might be able to download a different version of it. There was a 2014 release before, but you want to have the most recent version of Illustrator that you can get your hands on. Next thing we're going to be talking about is what types of things make icons great. And there are really three categories that make an icon great. And so the first is scalability. Icons are used on devices from large screens all the way down to tiny wearables now, and we want to make sure that our icons are able to be scaled and look great at all sizes. And so we're going to be testing a few things out here when we're making the icons. We want to zoom out and check if they're going to look great at small sizes. It doesn't do us any good if an icon looks great on a large screen if it's not going to look great on the devices that we're designing for. The second thing that we're going to want to keep in consideration is legibility. Just because an icon looks great on a small screen doesn't mean that it's legible and that the user can find out what that icon means. For instance, it can be drawn to a pixel grid, which is very important, but if a user can't tell what the icon is specifically, then it's not going to be a great icon. And the last thing is the sensibility of an icon. And what this means is being able to look at something and not only decide that this, for instance, is a cursor icon that we have in the top left, the selection tool, but what that cursor actually means. So it's connecting the legibility with what that actual icon does for us and what it allows the user to do before they tap or click the icon itself. Lastly, before we begin, we're going to talk about the format we're going to be saving our icons as. Because mobile devices have all sorts of pixel densities and screen sizes these days, you want to work in a vector format. And that's why we're using Adobe Illustrator. But also, more importantly than that, you want to be able to go back and re-edit anything that you have to change in your icon set. And so for that reason, I'm going to be saving these files out as .ai files, or Adobe Illustrator files. I'm also going to be including SVG versions so that someone who's not using Adobe Illustrator, a free example would be Inkscape, for example. You could be using that to edit the SVG file, and SVG just stands for Scalable Vector Graphic. So we're going to be saving out in Adobe Illustrator so we can go back and edit later, but SVG as a fallback just in case someone isn't using Illustrator, but they're using another graphics editor to work with these files. Now, the really last thing before we begin is selecting the logo style. The style of icon that we create is going to determine how legible it is at those small sizes and what it means to the user. So for instance, if you're working in a brand project that has a lot of print icons, a lot of things that are going to be on pieces of paper that are passed around that need to be quick glanced at, you want to consider that if you're going to use a line style, that the thickness of those lines has to be enough to make sure that the user can see what icon you're using. Today we're going to be drawing in a varied line style, and so what that means is the outside edge of what we're going to draw is going to be thicker than the inside edges. That allows a user to recognize the shape of an icon before they actually have to determine the details that are included on the inside.